Okay, in the extension for lesson 2.2, we're going to explore the slopes of some parallel and perpendicular lines. So when you have parallel lines, we have two lines in the same plane that are never going to intersect, right? We call those two lines parallel. And one thing that they have in common is that they will have the same slope. Okay, parallel lines always have the same slope, and all vertical lines are parallel. For the perpendicular lines, the two lines in the same plane will intersect to form a right angle, and they'll be perpendicular. And what's true about their slopes is that the product will become -1. Um, Also sometimes defined as negative reciprocals or opposite reciprocals of each other. And what I mean by that, if you can see here, the slope of the blue line is, let me do that, the slope of the blue line is equal to a -2. Slope of the red line is a positive 1/2. So blue is a negative, red is a positive. This is, -2/1. This is positive 1/2. If you were to multiply them, right? -2/1 times a positive 1/2, the product becomes -2/2, which is equal to a -1. So that's what it means when the product is the product right here of reciprocal or perpendicular slope or perpendicular lines. Their slopes product is -1. Okay, vertical and perpendicular are vertical lines are perpendicular lines. Oh my gosh. Vertical lines are perpendicular to horizontal, right? Because think about the x and the y axis themselves are horizontal or perpendicular to each other. So obviously, if it's a vertical line or a horizontal line, it's going to be perpendicular. But woof, that was like a tongue twister for me. Sorry about that. Here we go. I'm going to clear this and let's get going here. All right, so we are going to try to determine which lines are parallel in this first example. And so what you're going to have to do is, it's great because on this example in this video, you can see them in color. When they are black and white, like they are in your note packet, it becomes much more difficult. So kind of follow along. The blue line has a point at -5,2 and -4,1, all right? So I could calculate the slope as 2 minus the -1 over, that's a change in y, over -5 minus this -4, okay? So that's going to become 2 plus 1 is 3, and -5 plus 4 is going to become a -1. So the slope of the blue line is -3. That's for the blue line. The red line, all right, has a point -2, 1, and -1, -2. So if I calculate the slope of the red line, -2 minus 1, the change in y, over, then I come back to the x's, -1 minus this -2, -1 minus the -2, okay. -2 minus 1 is a -3, -1 plus a positive 2 is a positive 1, has a slope of -3. And finally, the green line, which has points 1, 3, and 2, -1, I can calculate the slope, and I'm just going to start here for a change. 3 minus this -1 over 1 minus 2. So 3 plus 1 is going to be 4. 1 minus 2 is -1. So this is -4. So when asked which lines are parallel, for question number 1, it is blue and red both have -3 slope. And then how do you know, right? Because they both have a -3 slope. The green has a -4. So it is not quite parallel to those, all right? So I'm going to pause the video here and let you do problem number 2 and find out which lines are parallel. So you might want to calculate the slope of all of those. All right. And then moving on to number 3. Are the given lines parallel? Well, we know that this is the equation of a horizontal line. This is the equation of a horizontal line. We know that they are going to have the same slope, right? They both have a 0 slope. So yes, they are both horizontal. M equals 0 for both, the same slope. Okay. Looking at number 4. Y is equal to 0, x is equal to 0. So we have a horizontal line and a vertical line. Are they parallel? No, they are not. One is horizontal with a 0 slope, and one is vertical with an undefined slope. Okay. And now I would like you to do number 5. Please tell me if x is equal to -4 and x equal to 1 are parallel, if these two lines are parallel. Okay. Moving on to the perpendicular lines, again, we need to calculate. So the blue line right here has the points 0, 3 and -1, 3. So I can calculate the slope of the blue as 3 minus a -3. Those are the change in the y coordinates, this y and this y. So 0 minus -1. Okay, so 3 plus 3 equals 6. And 0 plus 1 equals 1. So this has a slope of 6. The red line has 2 minus -3 and 4 minus 3. So this is equal to 5 over 1. And the green line, this -4, 1, and 2, -2. So -2, change in y, minus a -1, so that's a double negative there. And then 2 minus a -4. So we're going to have -2 plus 1. So this is going to be equal to -1. And then 2 plus 4 is 6. So a -1, 6. So we're wanting to know perpendicular. And if you recall, their product would be -1. So you take 6 times, -1, 6, and then 6 times 5 over 1, or 5 over 1 times -1, 6, but it's pretty obvious that these two are the opposite reciprocals of each other. So we're going to say blue and green are perpendicular. That's actually a U. And then the reason is their slopes are, we can call them negative reciprocals. We could say 6 over 1 times -1 over 6 is equal to -1. They have a product of -1. Okay? I'm going to pause the video and let you do number 8. Okay. Moving right along to number 9. Are the given lines perpendicular? Well, x and a vertical and a horizontal Yes, all vertical and horizontal. Remember how I stumbled over those in the beginning? Yes, vertical and horizontal lines are perpendicular, so yes. Okay. What about number 10? We have x is equal to -8 and x is equal to x is equal to -8 and x is equal to 7. So no, they're not because they're both vertical. So they are not. They're actually parallel. No, they are parallel. Both vertical. I'm running out of room here. Okay. And then finally, I'm going to pause the video and let you do number 11, the last problem. We want to know if y is equal to 0 is perpendicular to x is equal to 0. And then let me know if you are left with any questions. Okay. Also, when I was young, I admired clever people. Now that I am old, I admire kind people. I totally get that. All right. I will see you tomorrow.